This is Abnormal Entertainment.
Welcome, everybody, to the Cinema Head Cheese Podshort. This is Kevin Moyers, and this week I have two movies, but they are the original and the remake of Oldboy. Now, the original, the Korean film, is considered a classic. It's from 2003, so you'd think it might be older to be considered a classic, but it's from 2003. And then the remake was made 10 years later. A lot of complaints about how can they remake this, so on and so forth, which usually happens with that kind of a movie. It's directed by Spike Lee, which caused a lot of problems for people. Personally, I think Spike Lee is a gigantic race-baiting douchebag, so I've never actually watched one of his movies because I just don't want to support the guy. And that's it. This is the first time. Oldboy is the first Spike Lee movie I've ever seen, and that is the truth. And it's not just Spike Lee. I feel the same way about Woody Allen. I mean, whatever you want to say about it, fine. It's creepy as fuck, and I'm sure I would like some Woody Allen movies, but I refuse to watch them. In fact, years after he married his stepdaughter, and I don't give a fuck what you say, he wasn't married to... I don't give a shit. It's basically a stepdaughter, and it's the creepiest fucking thing in the world to me. But I saw him on some awards show, if it was the Emmys or whatever, and he did a couple minutes of stand-up, and I laughed, and I went, no, I can't watch his movies because I know I'm going to end up liking him and watching more and more. I have the same kind of thing for Roman Polanski, even though, I mean, I've seen Rosemary's Baby as one of those kind of homework things, like, well, this is a classic film, I should watch it. And I saw something else that he did that I didn't realize was him, Ninth Gate or something like that, the Johnny Depp thing. So, but I do intentionally avoid Roman Polanski movies because, yeah. Anyway, let's not get too far into my feelings on certain filmmakers. But this is the first time I've seen a Spike Lee movie. So what I decided to do, as I've had, the new version of Oldboy is now on Netflix streaming. The original version has been there for quite a long time, and it's been in my queue forever. And I've intended to watch it forever, and thought, you know what, it's the time to do it, because a lot of people are talking about the remake and what they think of it. One great thing about the original, the Korean film, is that it stars Min-sik Choi, who was the serial killer, the villain in I Saw the Devil, which is a movie I love. And if you've listened to us for a long time, you know Jeff and I just rave about that movie. You have to watch that movie. If you like revenge films, and oh my God, it's brutal and it's so well done. And at the end of it, you're going to go, what the fuck? But here's the thing. Oldboy is that way too. I'm sure many of you have seen it, and again, this is the first time I've watched it, and I watch these movies 2 days apart from each other, so I could have kind of a day to decompress in between. But there will be spoilers. I'm saying that flat out. As I talk about this, there will be spoilers because I want to do a fairly thorough compare and contrast, because I did enjoy both versions. I'm going to say that right now. And there were things that I found to be interesting between the two. Things I liked about one that I didn't like about the other, or stuff like that. So yeah, it's going to be spoiler filled. So if you haven't seen these movies, turn this off. You can come back to it because I will title it Oldboy versus Oldboy, so just look for that. And that's all I can say. So if those of you who need to turn it off have turned it off, let's get into it. Basically, Oh Dae-soo is the lead in the Korean movie. Joe Doucette is the lead in the American film. In both cases, Joe and Dae-soo are drunks. They're drunken, obnoxious businessmen, and one night they get drunk and end up being kidnapped and imprisoned. And this is one of the truths that is the same to both films. There are many truths in both films, things that stay. Little details have changed. Dae-soo is in prison for 15 years. Joe is in prison for 20. I don't know that it necessarily matters the time to as far as the remake goes. I guess it allows a little more time to pass, a little more distance, but in the father-daughter situation, in both cases, Joe and Dae-soo are in prison. They're gassed every night, so they pass out. People come into the room, they clean them up, get them set. In the Korean version, they take a glass, take a couple other things. In the American version, they take Joe's hand, place it on a crowbar. That's a little ham-fisted, honestly. I thought in comparison to with Dae-soo, they take a glass out of the room. Like, why would they do that? That's interesting. Whereas with the American version, you're like, oh, they're framing him for some shit. It's blatant. It's like, I wish they had been a little more subtle about it. I mean, they did other things in that scene that you would have gone, okay, they're taking blood, all right, maybe they're studying him, samples, whatever. And this is, if you hadn't seen the original. But anybody who watched the remake, when they placed a crowbar in his hand and wrapped his fingers around it, it's like, okay, what are they framing him for? You know what I mean? And so on the outside, they frame our leads for the deaths of their wives. And in both movies, they're thought to have killed their wives and disappeared. And they both leave behind a 3-year-old daughter. That's the same in both movies. The difference with Dae-soo is that he has no clue what has happened to his child. With Joe, there's a television show. It's like Real Murders, Real Crimes, and they talk to the parents that adopted his daughter. And they show his daughter, and she plays violin and stuff like that. And that motivates him to kind of get out, to try and break out, and to clean up, to get healthy, to work out in the room as much as he can and stuff like that. Same thing goes for Dae-soo, but he just wants to get out and hopefully find his daughter. But he just wants to get the fuck out of there. And there isn't that same specific motivation as in like seeing his daughter on television. The first movie starts in 1986, then moves up 15 years. The second movie starts in 93 and moves up 20 years. And they stay true to the release year. Who knows what happened in the Korean movie, if it was, sat on a shelf for a couple of years. I don't know, but whatever. So there's that. In both cases, they start chipping away at a brick in the wall. It's behind the bed for Dae-soo, and it's in the shower for Joe. And the day they're going to escape, gas comes in, drops them, and they wake up in a trunk in the middle of a field, dressed in a suit, with a wallet full of money. That's all true. And they start to get revenge, basically, on different people. It gets pretty gory. They each have a friend on the outside who totally believes their story, a guy they went to school with who totally believes their story. The American version, it's Michael Imperioli, and he runs a restaurant. In the Korean version, it's Dae Han-ji, and he runs an internet cafe. So, and you got to think early 2000s. Okay, those are probably more popular. They both have a cell phone, a little flip phone for Dae-soo, and then it's an iPhone for Joe. And they both kind of have to figure out what the fuck they're doing with it. Like, oh, okay, it's a little simpler, the one that Dae-soo has, of course. And they keep getting calls and messages and things like that. And they have to, again, figure things out. There's one thing, and I'd heard about before ever watching it. There's a pretty famous fight scene in the original where Dae-soo has a hammer and basically beats the shit out of a lot of guys, which ends in him walking into a crowded elevator, or walking up to a crowded elevator full of guys, and the next thing you see is the elevator opens and bodies just pour out with Dae-soo walking over the corpses, and then, has a knife in his back. They pretty well recreated this with Joe, and it was Josh Brolin. I think I said that earlier, but if I didn't, it's Josh Brolin. So they recreate this with Joe, and it's well done. It reminded me a lot of the original, including even the way it starts out. It almost looks like a side-scrolling video game, the way it's set up in both movies. So that was pretty cool. I liked it either way, and it was fun. The way Min Sik Choi plays it is more like sad and wistful and sympathetic, and the way Brolin plays it is a little more grumbly and gruff. You don't sense as much of his emotions throughout it. He's just mad and kind of trying to figure it out and kind of inside of himself. So, and not that he didn't play it well, but it's different. You don't get as much of the, whereas Dae-soo seems like a regular guy and just kind of stuck in this. He's not so brooding. He has his moments, but he's more sympathetic, I think. So, but it's interesting, and I'm trying to think of the actor that was essentially turned out to be the person that imprisoned Dae-soo, but it was over in both movies. It was Sharlto Copley in the American version, and in both cases, it was about their rage was about the death of their sister. In the Korean version, and again, spoilers, but you should have turned it off if you didn't want shit spoiled. In the Korean version, it had to do with, and in both versions it has to do with our leads calling the girl a whore, calling the villain's sister a whore, and that causing emotional damage. Now, in the Korean version, Dae-soo witnesses this dude having sex with his own sister, and he tells everybody about it, which leads to her killing herself in front of her brother. In the American version, Joe sees the girl's father having sex with her and tells everybody, and that leads the father to pretty much pull like a Chris Benoit move. He walks through the house with a shotgun, blasts the daughter, blasts the mother, blasts Copley's character, but he gets him in the shoulder instead of in the heart, and then he blows his own brains out, and just shotgun in the mouth, and it's pretty gruesome. But Copley's character, of course, survives and wants to get revenge. There is there is a female attached to each of our heroes. In the Korean version, it's a sushi chef who, after Dae-soo passes out, her name is Mi-do, and after he passes out, she takes him home, takes care of him. They eventually do have some sex. In the American version, it turns out to be a nurse at like a free clinic, traveling little free clinic, and her name is Marie. and that's played by Elizabeth Olsen, by the way, who does a great job. She gets called by Chucky Imperioli's character to come take care of Joe when he passes out. So, and Joe had her number. She gave it to him thinking he might be homeless or crazy and might need help. So here, call if you need help, kind of thing. So, and Chucky found the number on him. And again, these two eventually do have the sex. So, and this is where we get to the crazy ending. I've warned you. If you haven't turned it off, it's your own fucking fault. Okay? It turns out for Dae-Soo that once he was in prison and his wife was killed, the lead raised the 3-year-old daughter until she was old enough so that she and Dae-Soo may fall in love, have the sex. Yes, Dae-Soo had sex with his own daughter. And was shown video of it as he was explaining, as it was being explained to him what he had done. And he had no idea. Because, again, he hadn't seen her since she was 3. He had no clue. Thought she was somebody else. Was told that his daughter was adopted by a Swedish family, by the way. So, yeah. So, his solution, after begging, that Mito never be told, was to go basically be hypnotized and have that memory just completely eradicated from his brain, like suppressed. And he goes on and has a happy life with Mito. And there you go. Now, in the American version, there was a great misdirection here. Because the TV show, the criminal show that showed Joe's daughter and her adopted parents, and his daughter was supposedly like a concert violinist now. She's 23, so on and so forth. And he was promised that he would get to meet his daughter if he figured out why he was released and why he was in prison and so on and so forth. Well, he gets to meet this girl, this violinist. Finds out she's just an actress. That specific show was a setup that only he saw. Meanwhile, Marie is his actual daughter, who he had sex with. It was a really good misdirect because it's what everybody would suspect if you'd seen the original. And I thought it was a phenomenal way to fuck with you. As soon as they showed it, I was like, there's going to be something bad here. But as soon as you see the daughter on TV, it's like, okay, he knows what she looks like. Then it's, okay, so we're not going to go the incest route on that. So which way are they going with this? You know what I mean? Like, Again, Joe begs, please don't ever tell her, so on and so forth. And Copley agrees. And in both cases, the villains shoot themselves in the head. They finally completed this horrible task and now they can be free. And yeah, it's kind of crazy. But yeah, the total misdirect in the American version, which I thought was great. I like that. And in the ending, instead of going with the hypnosis, which is pretty unrealistic, Joe decides to write a letter to Marie saying, sorry, I can never see you again. I want you to be happy. Go on, so on and so forth. And he decides to go back to where he was in prison. Now, in both cases, and I really didn't get into details, it looks like a little hotel room. They have a TV. They're kind of stuck watching TV. They have a bathroom. They have a bed. It looks like a hotel room. And he goes back to the person that runs the hotel in the American version, dumps a bunch of diamonds that he got from Copley on the table, and that person happens to be Sam Jackson, who has a decent role, smaller role, and he just dumps it on there. The next thing you see is Joe in the room, little prison-style flap under the door, food slides in, and he just looks over at it, and it's something about these pot stickers, these dumplings that both Dae-Soo and Joe just fucking hate. But he looks over, he sees it's the dumplings, and he just smiles like this fucking I'm gone, life is over kind of smile, like I'm just staying in here forever. And there you have it. Lot of things they kept to. There was a hunt for the restaurant that made these specific dumplings, to track down the guys and stuff like that. That was in both movies. There was in both movies it was the daughter's birthday before the kidnapping and imprisonment happened. It's daughter's birthday. Each person had a gift. Joe had a little rubber duck, but Dae-Soo had like a set of wings for the kid. And the cool thing with that is that when Joe is drunk and kind of stumbling down the street before he gets kidnapped, he goes and buys from this little booth. He buys this little rubber duck, and the girl is wearing the wings, the white wings, like in the original movie. So it was that little nod. I like that. That was pretty cool. And there were other little things, but I think if you've never seen either and you watch one and not the other, if you've never seen either and you sat all the way through this and you know the ending, you're a dummy. I'm sorry, but you're a dummy. I warned you there would be spoilers. I honestly did think that, again, it's my first Spike Lee movie. I thought he did a good job with it. The misdirect was the best thing in this movie. I thought it was so well done, and it had me until I got close to the end, and I went, I don't understand. Like, what is Marie's purpose here? I don't get it. And just to have that female person with him, like in the original movie, but how is this going to shake out in the end? You know what I mean? But they still pulled off the, hey, you fucked your daughter scenario. And I thought that was great. That's what they needed to do. So, I'm hoping that everybody who's listened this far has seen both movies. And if you have your opinions, please post them on cinemaheadcheese.com or abnormalentertainment.com. You can leave comments under the show post. I welcome that. Or you go on Facebook, Twitter at CINHeadcheese, or at Kevin Moyers if you want to go right to me. But yeah, I think we tend to be hard on remakes, but when they're well done, we should acknowledge that. And especially when it goes from one country to another. While the original is considered a classic, it's done a lot. The Ring and The Grudge and stuff like that. But even look at TV. Some classic television comes from, things based on English shows, whether it's All in the Family or Three's Company or, stuff like that. That comes from British shows. So The Office, for God's sake, if we can allow it there and be okay with it, then we should be able to allow it. You can't get mad. Ooh, it's a remake. At one point they talked about Spielberg directing it with Will Smith. Now, I could see going, oh, fuck that. But people like Josh Brolin, and I think we're willing to give it a chance. And I think you should. If you've seen the original, I'm not spoiling anything for you, really. The misdirect, but yeah, again, I warned you. It's your fault. Don't get pissed at me. And I warned you multiple times. So, if you're going to get mad, suck it. But I still want to hear your opinions on it. And please, if you're going to write about it, please do so without spoiling it as much as you possibly can. Because there are people that are curious and haven't seen it. So, and I think the remake's new enough. Especially, the rules on spoilers are tough. I think if a movie's a year old, fuck it. But it just popped up on Netflix not long ago, so a lot of people are just discovering it, like me. So be nice, and don't try and ruin people. Because if you have a major spoiler, I'll take your post down. I will do it because that's just not cool. So be respectful in that way. Not just writing spoiler because that's not always enough. So, but just be kind, be gentle with it. And there you have it. But I am curious to hear what you guys think, so please let us know. Anyhow, one thing I will say that I did prefer about the original was the narration by Dae-Soo. You didn't get that from Joe. And I think that's part of why he seems closed in to me. He seems impersonal to me. Because you don't get to be in his head like you could with Daesu. So, I missed that. I really several times I'm like, man, I wish that they had the narration. Several times through the movie, like, oh, this is a point where it would have been a nice touch and, a good nod as far as going back to the original. But I think they did a good job with it, Spike Lee and Josh Brolin, so I will give them credit. And, it's not like Spike Lee is a pedophile or like the others I mentioned. He hasn't committed a crime. He's just a dick. And that's, whatever. So, yeah. What are you going to do? Mark Protosevich wrote the screenplay for the American version. I think, again, putting the misdirect in there was great. Let me see. What else did he write? Oh, let's see. He wrote Thor. Okay. I Am Legend. Poseidon and The Cell. So he's got a few, and I like Thor. I like I Am Legend. I haven't seen the other two. He has something called Freak Show coming out. So yeah, but I think he did a good job. Just the misdirect was good. I can say it 80 times, but yeah. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. I do appreciate it. We all do. We can't do this stuff without ears on it. I mean, we can. It's just kind of stupid to talk to nobody. So I do really appreciate you guys being around and caring enough to be a part of this. Interact with us, talk to us. We've said it a million times. Give us your opinion. Hey, I like this. Hey, I don't like this. What is this? What are you talking about? Give me some more details. Whatever you want. You know what I mean? Get a hold of us. We will interact. We like talking to you guys. We're happy to talk to you guys. So, that's all. But if you do want to support us, as you have been doing, going through the Amazon banner on our page, which is great. I know every podcast has one, but we've had one since 2002. So all those Johnny-come-lately fuckfaces that have only been podcasting for 2 or 3 years can suck it. Even the ones that I care about. But, yeah. And you can always go to our donate page as well. And we have other sponsors, not just Amazon. So say you want to buy the new Weird Al album, you can click through the Amazon banner. You can click through the iTunes banner. And we get a kick on either one. So do that. And he's done some really great stuff over the last week and a half. I think his 8 days of videos ended yesterday. So some great stuff in there. And that's something you can buy through Amazon or iTunes. So go for it. And again, you can click the donate page if you just want to toss a few bucks our way. We do appreciate it. We have a lot of shows on the network we host and take care of, so anything helps. And anyway, let me know what you think of my analysis of these two fine films. I enjoyed them both. You can't go wrong with either. Watch the old one first and go from there. That's the way I like to do things. But anyway, thanks again, and I will see you next week.
Hello, podcast fans. Adam Carolla here. I'm leading the fight against patent trolls who are threatening this medium. It's not about me. It's about the podcast you're listening to right now. If I go down, this show could be next. Visit fundanything.com/patent troll for more information on how you can keep podcasting alive. Thank you and mahalo.
Subscribe and download back episodes of Cinema Head Cheese the podcast and read all of our movie reviews and news at cinemaheadcheese.com. Email us at cinemaheadcheese@yahoo.com. Search Cinema Head Cheese on Facebook and tweet us at CINHeadCheese. And for more podcasts, books, comics, blogs, and videos, head to abnormalentertainment.com.
You've been listening to the Abnormal Entertainment Network.